It was late in the afternoon when Emeka arrived, unannounced, dragging a worn-out suitcase behind him. The girls were playing in the yard when they saw him. Ada froze, her eyes looking at Emeka, while Chika and Ngozi hid behind their mother. Amina stepped out of the hut, her expression unreadable. Emeka looked tired, his clothes tattered, and his face was a bit older than before. He didn't look like the man who had just left them. Amina, he began, his voice shaky. I have come back. I've come back home. I know I have wronged you. I want us to start over. Amina's heart was steady. For years, she had cried for him, prayed for him to return. But now, seeing him standing there, broken and empty, she felt nothing but anger. You think you can just walk back into our lives after all you've done? She asked, her voice calm but firm. I was confused, Emeka stammered. Mama, don't you dare blame Mama Ikem. Amina cut him off. You chose to leave us. You let your daughters grow up thinking they weren't enough. Do you know the pain you caused? I will make it right, he pleaded. Please, Amina, for the girls. Ada, who had been silently watching, stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her words cut like a blade. We don't need you, Daddy. You left us because you are girls. Now you want to come back. Why? Emeka looked down, unable to meet her gaze. Amina's voice was cold. You can't come back, Emeka. Not now. Not ever. Go back to the city or wherever you came from. We have survived without you, and we will continue to survive. Emeka's shoulders slumped. He left that same day, but his shame followed him like a shadow. With Emeka gone, Amina poured all her energy into her daughters. Ada continued to shine with her storytelling, often winning regional competitions. Chika's drawing became the talk of the village, and a local sponsor helped her enroll in an art program in the city. Little Ngozi, who was now old enough to attend school, showed promising results with her sharp intellect. Despite the struggles, the girls began to dream bigger. We will leave this village one day, Ada said one night. We will show the world what we are made of. And when we do, Chika added, they will know it's because of you, Mama. In the city, Emeka struggled to find work and his savings decreased. People whispered about how he had abandoned his family, calling him a disgrace. He tried to write letters to Amina, but she never responded. He heard through neighbors that his daughters were excelling, but they wanted nothing to do with him. One day, he sat alone in a crowded market, watching fathers play with their children. Regret clung to him like a second skin. Are they not my children too? He whispered to himself in regret. Ada's storytelling caught the attention of a journalist who visited the village. Impressed by her talent, he wrote an article about her, the voice of tomorrow. Soon, Ada was invited to perform at a national event in Lagos. On the stage, dressed in a simple gown, Ada told a story inspired by her own life. It was the tale of a mother's love, a father's betrayal, and the unbreakable bond of sisterhood. The audience cheered in applause, and Ada's name began to spread throughout the country. Meanwhile, Chika's art flourished. Her paintings, rich with imagery of life and strong women, were displayed in galleries. At just 16, she held her first solo exhibit in Abuja. Critics called her an extraordinary child, and collectors lined up to buy her work. Amina traveled to the city to see the exhibit. Standing beside her daughter, she felt a swell of pride. Mommy, Chika said, this is just the beginning. Ngozi, the youngest, showed exceptional results in school. Her teachers were amazed at her intelligence, and she won scholarships of some of the best schools in Lagos. By 18, she was already on her way to study engineering abroad. Before she left, she hugged Amina tightly. "I will make you proud, mommy, I promise." "You already have, Ngozi," Amina replied. Years passed, and the three sisters became household names. Ada became a celebrated author and speaker, traveling around the world to share her stories. Chika's art was displayed in major cities, from London to New York. Ngozi, now an engineer, worked on groundbreaking projects that earned her international awards. Their success brought attention to their humble beginning. Journalists often asked how about their fathers, but the sister always redirected the conversation. "Our mother is the reason we are who we are today," Ada would say. One day, Emeka saw a billboard featuring Ada's face. She was speaking at an international conference, empowering girls, inspiring generations. Tears filled his eyes, and he realized the importance of what he had lost. His daughters were everything he had ever wanted, and he had walked away from them. He tried to reach out, writing letters and sending messages, but none of them replied. Amina had made sure they only understood that his return would disrupt their peace. Amina lived to see her daughters achieve their dreams. She never remarried, choosing instead to devote herself to supporting her children. On her 60th birthday, the sisters returned home to throw her a grand celebration. Villagers gathered to honor Amina, the woman who has raised three of the most accomplished women in the region. Standing before the crowd, Amina spoke for all of them. "Our mother here taught us that being a girl is not a curse. She is our hero, and we owe everything to her." The crowd cheered in applause, and for the first time in years, Amina felt truly at peace. The night of Amina's 60th birthday, as the celebrations came to a close and the last of the guests left, the whispered returned. This time, they were not angry. It was calm and clear, calling Amina's name. "Amina, you have restored balance." Startled, Amina stepped outside, clutching the shawl around her shoulders. The moon was full, casting a glow over the village. The air felt different, lighter but charged with energy. From the shadows of the tree nearby, Ifoma emerged. Her face shone bright and beautiful. "They have been watching over you, Amina," she said. "Who?" Amina whispered. "The ancestors," Ifoma replied. "The spirits of our foremothers who were cast aside and silenced. They have seen your struggles, your triumph. Through your daughters, you have healed a wound that has festered for generations." That night, Amina dreamt of a vast field filled with women dressed in traditional attire. Some were carrying children, others held tools, books, and scrolls. One stepped forward, wearing a regal figure with striking eyes. "We are the women who came before you," she said. "The ones who were told we were not enough. You have broken the cycle, Amina. Because of you, your daughter will carry our legacy into the future." When Amina woke, her tears streamed down her face. For the first time, she felt the weight of generations lift from before her shoulders. While on a speaking tour in Kenya, Ada had an experience that will forever change her perspective. She visited an old shrine at the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro, where locals believed the spirits of wise women resided. As she stood in the shrine, she felt an inexplicable warmth envelop her. Closing her eyes, she felt a soft voice whisper, "You are the storyteller of your people. Use your voice to guide others." When she opened her eyes, she found a piece of charcoal in her hands. Later, she used it to write her most powerful story, a tale about a girl who rose from rejection to greatness. Chika, too, had a supernatural encounter. While painting late at night, she saw the outline of a woman in her canvas. The figure seemed to emerge on its own, her face fierce and beautiful. Chika felt compelled to finish the painting. When it was done, she realized it was the same woman from her mother's dream, a representation of the ancestors who had guided them. The painting, titled "The Forgotten Matriarchs," became her most famous work. It was displayed in museums worldwide, celebrated as a masterpiece of African art and heritage. In her engineering work, Ngozi often used her skills to improve the life of rural communities. One day, while working on a clean water project in a remote village, she discovered an ancient artifact built near the river, a small carving of a woman holding a baby. The villagers explained that the carving represented Omalicha, a forgotten goddess of fertility and strength. "She watches over women and children," the elder said, "as she had chosen you." From that day forward, Ngozi began dedicating her work to empowering women and ensuring that they had the resources and opportunities to thrive. Though Amina and her daughters were thriving, Ifeoma visited Amina one last time with a warning. "The balance is delicate," she said. "Though you have restored much, the world is still harsh for women. There will always be those who seek to silence or diminish them. You must ensure your legacy endures." Amina promised to continue teaching her daughters the importance of resilience, love, and unity. Years later, Emeka, now frail and forgotten, wrote one last letter. This time, he sent it directly to Amina. "I know I cannot undo what I have done," he wrote, "but I want you to know how proud I am of our daughters. They are everything I never had the courage to be. Please tell them I am sorry." Amina read the letter and sighed. She chose not to reply. It wasn't out of malice, but because she knew her daughters didn't need his words to validate their worth. They already built their lives far beyond his reach. The daughters of Amina became global icons. Other stories inspired movement for gender equality. Chika's art reshaped how women were seen around the world. Ngozi's engineering project transformed entire community. On a bright morning, they gathered in the village to unveil a statue of Amina, commissioned by Chika and funded by Ada and Ngozi. The statue depicted Amina standing tall, her hands resting protectively on the shoulders of her three young girls. Beneath the statue was an inscription, "For the woman who taught us that being a girl was the greatest strength of all." As they stood before the statue, a gentle breeze swept through the village. The unveiling of Amina's statue became a monumental event. People traveled from neighboring villages, cities, and even other countries to witness it. The air was filled with drumming, singing, and dancing as the villagers celebrated Amina and her daughter's remarkable achievements. The statue, carved from polished ebony, stood in the village square, where it will forever remind future generations of what resilience, love, and sacrifice could achieve. Amina stood beside her daughters, her heart swelling with pride. Back in the city, Emeka lived in penury. News of his daughter's success reached him through newspapers and television, but he could only watch from afar. One day, while sitting alone in his small, dimly lit room, he saw a televised interview with Ada. When asked about her father, Ada said, "Our father made his choice, and it shaped who we are today. But our mother is the reason we stand tall." Tears streamed down Emeka's face. He realized too late that his daughters were everything he once had dreamed of, but lacked the courage to fight for. His last days were spent in quiet regret, knowing that the love he had rejected could never be reclaimed. As Amina grew older, her health began to deteriorate, but her spirit remained strong. One night, as she sat on her veranda watching the stars, she felt the familiar presence of the ancestors. The matriarch appeared again, surrounded by other women who had come before her. They smiled at Amina, their faces radiant. "You have done well, Amina," the matriarch said. "Your daughters carry our legacy, and through them the world will change." As the vision faded, Amina felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." After Amina's passing, her daughters continued her work. They built a foundation in her name dedicated to supporting education, arts, and leadership for girls across Africa. The foundation's motto was a phrase that had defined their journey: "Being a girl is the greatest strength of all." The statue of Amina became a pilgrimage for women seeking inspiration. Her story was taught in schools. Her resilience was shown in songs and plays. Generations later, the village that once mocked Amina and her daughters became a symbol of hope and transformation. And somewhere in the unseen realms, Amina's spirit walked with the ancestors, watching over her daughters as they lit the world with their brilliance.